scrotum stretched out like a fucking yard. Oh God, I grew my balls to my butthole again. Oh my God, what did I do? I can't take a dump, 'cause now my balls are blocking up my butthole. My lady doesn't want a life of watching her man use a butter knife, face down, ass up, try and saw off his sack. Oh baby, fucking please just take me back. I grew my balls to my butthole, baby.
Definitely not assassinating people, says a representative from Boeing.
We're in no way trying to assassinate people to talk about the defects of our airplanes. Because there are no defects. The planes are actually in tip-top shape. They're in the best shape they've ever been in. And yes, we want to be fully transparent that we had a moment of weakness and a few doors were blowing off the airplanes. But that was actually just propaganda by the Jews. Yes. No, by the Palestinians. By, you know, why don't if you look at the evidence, you'll see, you don't need to look at the evidence. There's actually nothing to see there. You don't need to fucking look at it.
You can know a lot, you can know a little, but whatever you know, just don't blow the whistle. Joshua Dean had a memory keen, he was strong and he ran every day. But his lungs turned to goo and he had a stroke to at 46, he was sent on his way. Swampy Barnett loved his mother and he took a lot of pride in his work. He found 300 reasons why a plane couldn't fly, and now he's over his head in the dirt. You can know a lot, you can know a little, but whatever you know, just don't blow the whistle. You can toot a flute, you can play the fiddle, but whatever you do, just don't blow the whistle, alright? Boeing's got planes in the sky, yeah, but Boeing's got men on the ground. Oh, you mess with the shares, buddy, beware. They can make sure that you land safe and sound. They keep cutting their deals with the FAA, USA, fantastic lawyers of law. A little blip of the whistle, 'cause they're bonus a little, but you can't never see what you never did saw. You can know a lot, you can know a little, but whatever you know, just don't blow the whistle. Your life can be trash, completely dismal. It could always be worse if you just blow the whistle, alright?
In 1992, German scientists discovered traces of hashish, tobacco, and cocaine in the hair, skin, and bones of mummies being studied. It would seem that nothing special, but before this discovery, the ancestor of tobacco and cocaine was considered exclusively the New World. How could this happen? Critics have floated offensive theories about drug-addicted archaeologists and fake mummies. But German scientists are not the type to give up easily. The criticism only inflamed their research enthusiasm, and they conducted an independent examination of hundreds of ancient mummies for drug artifacts and found traces of nicotine and cocaine in a third of the samples studied.
This is the emergency broadcast system. This is not a test. Repeat, this is not a test. This is our advice to take the following steps. If exposed, remove
Podcast for the curious mind. I don't know what that means.
Broadcasting live from a Chinese-made microphone high atop Sioux Nation. I am cussing with Hussein, with my co-host May Massacre and special guest Chris from Old World Exploration YouTube. Thank you so much for coming on the show, man.
Thanks for having me. Should be fun.
Yeah, no, we're excited. We've had Flat Earth Dave on, and I'm not saying that to discredit anyone who's like, let's not start that. But he's got several videos on his app that are just curious oddities. And I stumbled across a couple of your videos he had linked to, and a couple of other people. And it was like there was one conglomerate that was like 6 hours long. And I think like 2.5 hours I tapped out, and I just didn't tackle it for 2 years.
Oh, come on. 6 hours. It should be easy.
Like I can't do it. We're talking mud floods and domes and airships, and I'm like, what is
That's a
going
great
on?
episode.
So I gave it time to breathe, but then my algorithm popped up your video you had done a few months ago on the city of Sioux Falls, South Dakota.
Yeah.
And that's a town I'm very familiar with. And so, like, you got these pictures of the city hall and the big tower on City Hall that they lopped off, which I've been in that building. The cathedral in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, that that they built in 2 years with no
Yep.
pictures of it being built.
No. Yeah.
And I was willing to just sort of throw this little theory away, which I don't even know what the theory is about, which is why we're having you on, because we're just coming into this clueless. I'm just sort of giving you a backdrop of how I got into it.
Yeah.
But like this whole the thing that got me was when you discussed the population.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And
The small population sizes for the time. Yeah.
right.
Yeah. And how buildings, yeah. That's what caught me big time was the population didn't add up.
Yeah.
It
I just
doesn't-
saw.
yeah. Go
I
ahead.
just one of my comments recently. I just saw somebody mention too. Remember, families at that time were like 6 kids.
Yeah.
So if you're talking about a population, and each family's got 2 to 6 kids, let's say, that's a large segment of the population that would have been kids as well. So that even makes it more crazy to believe the timeline that we're given, I think.
Well, and if you go just north of the town of Sioux Falls, there's a town called Flandreau, South Dakota. And I mean, it is straight out of the Wild Wild West movies with like the downtown saloon, the elevated sidewalk to enter into the building. And just sort of that image built up in your mind. It's just a tiny little town of like 100 some people now, or it's probably a little bit bigger than that.
Yeah.
But then we're supposed to believe that same time period they built the cathedral in this podunk town of Sioux Falls. And I've got a couple clips of your videos, if you don't mind me playing them.
Sure.
But you've got I just wanted to show people what caught my interest on it as far as like got me wanting to ask more and dig into it. May, you looked into this a little bit too. Was there anything that stood out to you?
No, I mean the biggest thing was the population for sure. And then it did cross my mind with everybody having about 14 fucking kids. Like how would that make any sense? And then just how the buildings were shaped, like with the windows and the peaks, and just all that was just super fascinating. And then how kind of technology went from horse and buggy to railroads, and like just like a blink of an eye when it just didn't make sense.
Yeah, everything gets invented so quickly
Yeah.
that they don't even get to use it before they're on to the next thing, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Here's a clip of the Old World Sioux Falls video. For anyone that's curious about your videos, you can go to YouTube, look up Old World Exploration, and you can find. I mean, you've done how many towns have you done so far?
I don't know how many towns. I'm just up over 200 videos. I've done most major cities in the States, even ones that you wouldn't call a major city, I guess. So quite a few. I also want to mention that I just started a podcast on my Rumble channel, same name. It's an unleashed podcast, so I'm going to other places that I don't usually go on my Old World Exploration channel. So there's my plug.
Okay. Have you had problems with YouTube?
Yeah, I've had a few strikes. We went into I had a chat
Really?
last summer and I got a strike. Yeah. But it was a warning, and I'm sure it affects the algorithm, I assume. Right.
Yeah. Huh. That's interesting. Yeah, and we'll talk about a couple other people doing research on older buildings, getting in problems with YouTube and their algorithm, and I think it's very interesting why that's an issue. But here's the clip I wanted to show from Old World. Give me a second here. I'll pull it up here. I think it's a 14-minute mark. We're talking about some of these buildings all across. Some of these I've been into because I'm an electrician by trade and do some service work in some of those old churches on Phillips. And I mean, there is some weird rooms in the basement. It's You go down in that basement, and it just feels like you're stepping into a whole different era. I remember in this one church, it was cut into the rock of the foundation with a tiny little door, and it said, "This is holy ground. Remove your shoes before entering." So just weird stuff like that. Here's this. This is the probably the most beautiful building in Sioux Falls is the Catholic Church.
It's all speculation. All of what we're doing on this channel is speculation. We're trying to connect dots that fairly far apart. Sometimes hard to make those connections, but I do like to provide you with the visuals. We have a cathedral, of course.
I mean, and this was built in 2 years.
Come on, Sioux Falls. Come on. It's ridiculous. I mean, you're in the industry. I'm a carpenter by trade. It's absurd, I think, when you're in the industry and you could see how they put these things together. To me, that's why I got into this.
When did this, like, how did you come across this or begin to start noticing buildings in this light that they're from an older time?
Yeah, it was about 3 years ago, just over 3 years ago. It was a year into the pandemic. Everyone had time to browse and all that kind of stuff. I was pretty hardcore conspiracy researcher for 20 years previous, but I didn't see this one. This one sort of caught me off guard. I started checking out like John Levi's videos. Do you know John Levi? If you don't, you should check his stuff out. Michelle Gibson as well.
Yeah, I seen you do a couple shows with her, and I've listened to one of them.
Yeah,
really interesting takes from her.
So for me, it was like I really started looking at these old buildings I'd never seen before. These 5, 6, 7, 20-story structures with domes on top in the States. If I would have ever thought they would have existed, I would have thought they would have existed in Europe. That's how I grew up understanding the world and architecture itself. They never told us that these things existed. I don't think they want us to know. That's why so many were demolished, and a lot of them are hard to find, even if they still stand, or they're buried in skyscrapers. They're boxed in, in big cities and stuff like that. So it caught me by surprise about 3 years ago. I got into I don't know if you know much about the melt either.
No, we are coming in now. Our side, we are coming in just blindsided by this, So, yeah, you'll have to hold our hand as you walk us through this.
Well, there's a lot of visual evidence to suggest that there was some sort of high heat cataclysm here. There's quite a few good researchers that do work in there. I won't plug everybody because it might take all night. But
no.
Yeah, on my channel, I do have links to people that do this kind of work, and there's a lot of evidence to suggest that there was a massive cataclysm here, which kind of flows in with the mud flood, which a lot of people don't like that term. It's funny because it's become this sort of offshoot research community that gets a little fussy about words like Tartaria or mud flood, or I don't know if you heard those terms as well, right? But
Tartaria, yeah, Tartaria. And I've got a couple of videos to go into how Tartaria is explained to someone like me, just Googling and looking online. But there is a couple of interesting things I thought. There's one video here, just a short little reel for anyone who wants a little background.
President Vladimir Putin in 2013 made Tartaria maps public, and in 2017 he also gave a map created by William Blair of Tartaria to the former president of Tatarstan, also known as Tartaria. So how did William Blair have such a clear picture of this country if it didn't exist? We learn about the famous Egypt, the Persian Empire, the Ottoman or Roman empires, but all of this history is small in comparison to the Tartarian Empire, unless it isn't true and it's just a myth or a story. But you can find too many documents that state this region certainly did exist. The landmass and territory called Tartary and Great Tartary was an historical location in northern Asia that existed between the Caspian Sea, the Ural Mountains and the Pacific Ocean. Tartary was a blanket term used by Europeans for the areas of central, northern and eastern Asia, as these parts were largely unknown to European explorers. This is why the entire geographic territory was known simply as Tartary, and its inhabitants were called Tartars.
So, I mean, I'm curious as to your take on that.
I think Tartaria would have been possibly the last vestiges of the old world civilization, or an old world civilization that was on the way out. But I don't like the regional aspect of it, because like I usually do in my videos, I look at North America. I think that there was much more here than we've been told, and that was just sort of the last part that was about to get scrubbed out. And then Tartaria became a blanket term for a lot of people to describe this old world. But I think old world is a better moniker, because Tartaria can be marginalized to a specific region.
So I guess so. The belief is that these old buildings, they come from a centralized location? Like, was there like a great empire that just ruled over this area, and then there was some cataclysmic defect that destroyed the world, reset humankind, and then we rediscovered these buildings as we discovered North America again?
Well, I know exactly what happened. I'm just kidding.
Yes!
Nobody.
I knew I got the right guy.
It's totally impossible to say you know any of this for sure. So this is obviously all
Well,
speculation.
this is all speculation. Yeah, no, it's all speculation. We're just
Yep.
This is such an interesting. It's interesting to me because like I said, I'm from a small area where it's impossible to believe such buildings could go up that quickly.
You know what what I really think, honestly, is that the turn of the century, 20th century, was a key point in their taking over. When I say there, now I'm targeting the bloodline families, which I'm sure you're aware of, the monarchies, Vatican. This is exactly who we have to point to for hijacking the realm and distorting our history, and basically making them look like the benevolent philanthropists, benefactors of the Industrial Revolution, if you know what I'm saying. Painting themselves in a positive light, while the rest of us were just sort of had to work our way into some sort of wealth. I think they completely hijacked what was left, and I think you're right. Post cataclysm, and then a series of events to shore up the realm. That could possibly be what the American Civil War was, not necessarily what we're being told it was, but actually a hijacking of the continent, or much of the continent, and painting a different picture of the area. Because you have the incorporation in 1871, I think it is, the USA Inc., right? And the taking over, and then you get the financial system coming into play, you get the Fed in 1913. So you can kind of see how the pieces fit if you've done a bit of the research.
Yep.
And that's why it makes a lot of sense to me when I look at the architecture, that there's no way that this was done at the time in the way that they say it was done. For me, that's enough. I don't,
Well, and we're both in construction. May's been out out in the field too, when it comes to big projects that need to be done. And it does seem odd that such a building, like, we don't have the ability to build such buildings today in that quick of time.
Some people will say we do have the ability, we just don't, which I disagree with. But we don't have the material resources. We don't have the architects, to be honest with you. I don't know if we have the imagination to create some of these structures. No offense to architects out there. I just
Well,
feel
that's
like
not what pays the bills, like everything, it has to be streamlined.
clean lines, right? Clean
Yes.
lines. Yeah.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
where does that school of thought come from?
Well, and it's so funny too, because like when you look at these communist countries, back in the early 1900s, as they overtake, like Russia, everyone thinks of Russia, but China does this too, and they destroy all this architecture, and in place of it, they put up the most boring looking buildings with no imagination whatsoever, that will now stand for hundreds of years, when you had these beautiful structures before. And in their right mind in a community sits down there and all agrees to get rid of these structures? You know what I mean? Like,
Well, when you go forward, you can't have anything that looks like the past. The what rings in the halls of success and everything else. No, like they have to destroy all of that and set the tone for what is about to be the next 100, 200, 500 years. Like it has to be, it can't be something to look at because they're there under these dictatorships and all this communism stuff. So it's one rule, one mindset. If you put in beautiful architecture and buildings and whatnot, you get people not with the tunnel vision. Does that make sense? That's how I think about it.
Yeah.
It's you make it ugly, you make it straight lined, you make it so your blinders stay on. You don't go outside of your thoughts and whatnot because you're not allowed to. So knock it all down, tear it all down.
So they're trying to treat us into like more of a Borg type society,
Yes.
which is what we've become, right? Like it's called brutalist architecture. That what you're talking about, right? It is brutal, and there's a reason for it, right? I don't think there was anyone in Stalinist Russia that was of sound mind, and if they were hiding it because if they expressed it, they were killed, right? So like, and they partitioned off the entire world and destroyed its architecture. In World War II, don't forget, right? Destroyed it.
Yeah, Dresden. We had an episode on firebombing, the firebombing of Dresden, and that didn't even come into play. I just knew that it was it was like the San Francisco of Germany. Just a very beautiful city, very old. I didn't think about the architecture. I know the square, the center there. They tried to rebuild the main church, but when you look at the old photos of Dresden, it was absolutely beautiful. And it was all completely destroyed in firebombing. And I heard someone, it might have been one of your videos on timelines. I think maybe you mentioned it on the side, the bombing of Dresden, and same thing with just firebombing in general of some of these cities and along the war by both sides.
Yeah, and like with the purpose of destroying its architecture, I've heard that as well. People who said their grandpa had told them that their mission was to destroy the architecture in that city or that town or whatever they were meant to attack, right?
Well, wasn't the Nazis? Hitler ordered the destruction of the Eiffel Tower, and supposedly the soldiers were like, it's just too beautiful. We don't want to destroy it. Now I don't know Eiffel Tower if that falls in the timeline of old world.
Yeah, for sure. Supposedly it was originally built for World's Fair in Paris, which I don't think is true. I think the construction photos are faked, but I don't know for sure. World's Fair is another huge one. You probably
Yeah. I got a video of the one in Buffalo. We can play for people that just sort of get an idea what we're talking about. The World Fair was this huge event that happened every few years, wasn't it? Like
well,
just
pretty much every year for quite a long time.
It was a yearly
all over the world
thing.
too. All over the world.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Let me see here. Buffalo.
The Buffalo one, that's fantastic. That's very interesting. I'm sure they all are.
People are walking around on something that's absolutely remarkable. I mean, look at that. This is Buffalo, New York, 1901. Just stunning architecture. And this all has a frequency. We've talked a lot about this with frequency, resonance, fractals, all of these materials, all the copper that was used. Every statue on top of these buildings had copper. Every angel on top of these buildings had copper. And then you start to wonder, well, copper's only 1% of the soil. Where were they getting it all from?
The Statue of Liberty was straight out of copper. I mean, copper was used so much.
So Buffalo, New York, look at that fountain right there, right in the middle. Just, keeping the water intact. And then this is New York, Buffalo, New York, 1901. This was the sustainable buildings that people were, temporarily building. That's what they were telling us. You got right there. There's more water. And see how the society who was building these, because I don't believe that, they were horse and wagon time at that time, but the society who was building this, look at how much they cherished water. I mean, there's so much water and fountains and all of this. And then you go to the next one, which you have a Coliseum in Buffalo,
yeah,
New
this
York.
Building.
A picture I don't think many people have seen, which is interesting. Do you have this, and that can be energy.
Is this the World's Fair?
This is the World's Fair, yes.
Okay.
This is the picture, and then let me just
Yeah, that's just
You
one
could
of the
probably
many-
blame the Buffalo Bills for that because they wanted to tear all that down. So all those terrible seasons of losing, the fans didn't have anywhere else to go. They're like, we can't have this beautiful structure here. We got to
They do
cram
well.
everybody into this shitty stadium.
Their stadiums are a big part of it too. The Soldier
Yeah.
Field, I think, was one. They're all over the
Yeah.
place, especially at
Yeah.
universities. Actually,
Yeah,
universities
that
are
was
holding a lot of old
interesting.
world stuff.
Yeah, how the universities with all those castle-like buildings and buildings that you wouldn't see or wouldn't expect to house a university, and they're gorgeous. I mean, they just take your breath away. Some of them, the way they look and whatnot. And you're like, there's no way they meant to build that for whatever course or a student body. I like the fact though with building with the copper, and it seemed like they built everything with the mindset of keeping the body pure and simple. Like they say, the copper grounding is good for you when you sleep and all that. Like it, I don't know if that's what what they intended when they built all that, but it feels like with the materials and stuff they used, it was just good energy, good, just good for everything involved. The people, the buildings, the water, all of that to keep it, top of the line. I
Yeah,
could
you're
be
getting
way off, but
no, you're getting into the energetics of it too, and that's a big part of the old world theory, if you will. The ether and the antiquitech, that harnessing the energy in the ether. Now, this is getting into Tesla and
Yep.
what was hidden from us for so long in that regard. And then the water also being part of the cooling system, with the ether being harnessed, and also the building materials, all crystalline in nature. Fireplaces that didn't burn wood,
yeah, that
uh,
was interesting.
things like that. Those are all things
Yeah,
that
I
make you think,
forgot all
right?
about that. Just it's so yeah,
Yeah,
these
those
things.
fireplaces.
They're
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
too crazy to ever think you'd put a piece of wood in there and set it on fire. They look too
Yeah.
amazing, right? Some of them.
Yeah.
Now we got if you want to call in and talk with Chris and the Fan and Facts crew, I have provided the link in the comments. Just take a look. Just all we ask is you remain respectful when you bring up any questions you have. And we're not going to let you talk for 30 minutes either. So those rules too. But we do have a first caller, Jake Weiland. How's it going, Jake?
Hey guys, how you doing?
Good. Thanks
Can
for
you hear me all right?
Yeah, we can
Oh
hear you.
yeah.
Good.
Probably better than some of our audio. Jake,
I like
what's your
these.
question?
Oh, hey, Chris, I just want to thank you for, all your work, all your research.
Sure.
I've kind of found you a little bit more recently, but the wife and I watch John Levi
Yeah.
every Sunday, and
Yeah.
I appreciate it. It seems like some of these videos are starting to kind of have a cadence of Sundays. I noticed. It's just kind of, I don't
You
know
got
if
to
that
be in
was
a relaxed mood, right? You got to be in a bit of a
yeah,
relaxed mood to get into it. Yeah.
yeah.
When did
So
you discover this, Jake? When did you and your wife come across this
yeah,
this
no,
piece of-
you said I couldn't talk for 30 minutes. No, for me, this is kind of my journey, but my wife it's been really interesting because for most people this is going to be like completely incomprehensible
Yeah.
this topic.
Yeah. Tell me about it. Whew.
Yeah, and it
Huh.
just
In my
it
day to
just
day, my
depends.
personal life, it's there's a lot. Most people that don't even know I do this, in my personal life. Yeah.
Well, and
It's
you can't help once you know this, when you go anywhere, you just are sort of looking, you find yourself looking at all the architecture. What do you have there?
John's
What is that
book.
book?
it's John's
Oh,
book.
nice.
Okay, well, I'm gonna have to look up this John Levi guy.
I
Yeah.
I wish the like photos didn't come out that well in this copy, but it
Yeah.
doesn't matter because his videos have all of it in there too. But
Yep.
yeah,
It's for
please
sure.
please check. John is such. I really hope I get to meet John someday. It was funny, his video that he just put out today, he looked at the Rotunda West in Florida as well as Cape Coral, and I'm in that area, and so I've actually, John and I are like of one mind basically at this point. He literally talks about things that I think about in almost in real time. And the thing about Cape Coral is it's like this massive grid of
Terraform.
canals.
It's like
Yeah,
terraform.
totally.
Yeah.
Well, and where I
Agreed.
live, which isn't Cape Coral, it's inland, is the same. And there's I've never heard any explanation for why all the why it was all here. And I've looked, like most of us who do this research, you spend a lot of time on Google Earth looking at satellite imagery, and like I've looked at it all, and I mean like as far back as it goes. And 1994 is not that long ago, and there was nothing here, nothing, but all the roads were here.
Weird.
Every road perfectly square, completely grid-like. It's just like what John was looking at today in his video. And so I know I'm kind of glazing John, but John is awesome, guys. Seriously. I just love it.
And I'm sure John would want me to say he's just a regular guy too. So let's not deify the man. I know he doesn't like that. I know he really doesn't like that. So
no, but I'd have a great conversation with John.
Sure,
but
sure.
So I guess I do have a question. Maybe this is I don't know how deep you guys go on some of this stuff, but I like the mystery that was kind of being talked about earlier. But we don't know fundamentally who this civilization was, or who this people was. There was I'll put my own input into this. There is a lot of uniformity to these structures.
Yeah.
Everywhere. And it doesn't matter if you're in India or in China or in the western states of the US. And so my question to Chris is, who do you think this people was, and where did they go? Because that's the fundamental question.
Yeah, it's a good question too. And you can get pretty deep with the answer as well. A lot of biblical research are going into the little season. I don't know if you heard much about that, which that time after the apocalypse in the Bible where Satan gets released and has his day. So a lot of Christians are jumping on that bandwagon, which I'm not ruling that out or throwing that out. I think
I'm Christian, but I'm not familiar with that. But it might be just some eschatology that you're describing another way.
Are you talking about when after Christ has his 1,000-year reign?
Absolutely.
And then after that, Satan is released back onto the world, and that's when the testing comes, and the goats are separated from the sheep, and then the true removal of evil people take place, and the rest.
The little seasons thing is very interesting. I stumbled upon that in TikTok and YouTube while I was looking into this, and I was blown away. I knew nothing about that, and that was well worth a watch.
Yeah, so that's a form of eschatology. I think it's a form of millennialism, right? Like that's what you're fundamentally talking about. And I just have another question. Like, so anyone who's looked at this closely, which I know Chris has, I know you have, man, and I've watched almost all of your content at this point too. The timeline is clearly there's something wrong about it. There's some time getting added in places, and then there's some time getting removed in others, seemingly. And so my question is, it could be to everyone, but it's like, is it possible that there's only been 1,000 years since Christ? Has that ever crossed your mind, just out of curiosity? Like, is it possible that it's that?
Yeah, no, I've heard that, and they've inserted the timeline. Some of the scholars have gotten into that. I think Fomenko was a Russian mathematician who analyzed history in European history and found that they were recycling patterns with the timelines. I mean, when you think about it and you look at, for instance, the monarchies, Louis XIV, like how many Louis do you need before you change the name, right? It's not very imaginative the way that they Napoleon III, their timeline is almost identical. The things that happen in their lives are almost identical. You can do a deep dive on that.
Copy and paste. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty sloppy, right? And I think there must have been a time crunch. There's the whole Jesuit aspect of it too, and what we call the exploration, the explorers, the fur traders, and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
If I may quickly say, I am a Christian myself, but there's a real problem here. I'm in a bit of an internal battle right now, because something has to be said about the cathedrals in North America. Why did they all belong to the church? Why are almost all of them churches? Or and like, again, if you understand the problem with the architecture, those problems exist everywhere, but like they really, really exist here in North America. And you guys, it sounds,
Is it because the churches that established themselves were the blackmail leaders of society, so they just bargained for the best building in each town? Is that, I mean, could it be
I
something as simple as that? They're just like, hey man,
The
we'll take this.
founders, right? They founded everything. They founded
Yeah.
everything. So they're, I think that at the surface level, organizations like the Masons and the Vatican, or if you want to split off
Vatican.
all the denominations, the Episcopalians and the Baptists.
Yeah, to be fair, some of the like other types of denominational churches are just the same building. So
Yeah, it's all, that's just, I think it's just window dressing. And when you get down to it, it's there's a core entity involved. I mean, you could see in it, we lived through it for the last 3-4 years, the attempt to wring us by our necks, basically, and I think that has actually been a trigger for people to say, hold on a second, if we're going to lie about that, what else are they lying about, right? And you start digging up history, and it's like, that's bullshit. That's bullshit.
Jake, some great questions, man. Thanks so much for calling in. We
Yeah,
really appreciate it.
Nice talking to you, Jake.
Yeah, likewise, guys.
Yeah, thanks, Jake.
Jake Weiland with some great questions there. There's just
School is such a bamboozle. I'm telling you, like,
it's Rockefeller, man.
Yeah, but that's what it is that, like you said, the bloodlines took over, claimed dibs on what needed to be claimed on, and just said, "Oh, we did this. We are the almighty and everything else." No, and that's what is so mind blowing. Why could we not give thanks and gratitude to what was before us? Like,
why
it
lie?
just
Why lie to us, right?
Exactly. Why all the lies? Like, I mean, especially now, as much as COVID, really sucked for a lot of people, for everybody, it is what a great awakening, as people say. It's opened up a lot of eyes and minds to everything. And it's as shitty as a time that everyone has gone through. I think it backfired on them when they planted this seed, because I don't think they were expecting for all of us to open up and see the bamboozleness that has been going on for so long. And I still think they know that they're probably untouchable, and it doesn't matter that we find it and we look into it. But it's just so fascinating, all the shit that was just put over our eyes and just told to take it.
Here's another great example of shit getting pulled over our eyes. I remember hearing all sorts of stories about these. I'll play this a little bit of this video right here. My bad. That was excessive. These are all the great fires of like 1862. And I don't know if you had some insight on this, Chris, when it comes to some of these buildings. I do notice you mentioned, a couple of fires, especially with Sioux Falls, the mill on the river, supposedly only up for 2 years and kept burning down. And so they just were like, nope. And then they made it into a part of the historic register of landmarks, so no one could,
almost like a trophy of destruction.
Yes, yeah.
There's a lot of that going on. They throw it in our faces, right? Yeah. Well, yeah, I think that I've looked at all sorts of fires. I don't think all of these places were burnt to the ground like they say. I think they were destroying structures. But I also think it's a way for them to reset the construction narrative and say, okay, none of these were built until after the Great Fire. Then they started building them all out of brick and stone as a result of the Great Fire, which is not the case, because when you look at the photographs, they were brick and stone buildings that they're showing as evidence of the fire. So you see that a lot as well. The whole downtown area burnt down. It was made of wood. They decided to rebuild it, and they did it really, really quickly, and now it's fireproof. And it's a recycled story again, and you see it all over the place.
Almost like Hawaii.
Yeah, exactly.
Smart city. Ooh,
yeah.
Is that what we're about to stumble into? The smart city is going to be the 3.0 or 4.0 of this?
I think our awareness is pushing against their, the level of our awareness collectively pushes against their ability to push without being discovered by the masses, if you know what I'm saying, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
So as more of us can wake up and say, okay, sports is cool, but there's another big thing going on here. I can enjoy a basketball game for what it is, but I'm not going to live and die by my favorite, to use the analogy, how or Hollywood's the same way too, right, or your favorite artist. We need to really care about what's really going on here, and those are the conspiracy theorists, the ones that actually give a shit about what's going on.
But they do a great job at just, making sure that you're, zombied into it. Like, they'll push like hell with, like you said, your favorite sports team or your favorite artist or whatever, just so they can just behind the curtain of number 3, they just do what they want. And it's, like you said, we got to do a better job to understand the fuckery, if you excuse me, is going on, and not buying into what our idols and, our, fans are, getting away with.
Or P. Diddy's, right? In those times.
Recycled religious stories, hence religion. I like it though.
Yeah.
Now, how do you explain, or have you heard? I know you are just, this is all speculation, but how would you explain the history of Native Americans in this land? So, like when we talk about South Dakota, that's very prominent here. The Native tribes and the history of them going back to the 1860s. How is that explained, and how did they survive?
Yeah, well, I think there's a good possibility that they were the survivors of a cataclysm, the remnants of that past civilization in those localities. Possibly, so like I said, all speculation. I think our impression of their culture was imprinted on us through those World's Fairs. Actually, if you ever heard of the human zoos at the World's Fairs, how they were painting the pictures of the Aboriginal peoples all over the world, actually. And then you couple that with the history of genocide, right? Is what do these entities do? The Vatican, the Crown, first thing they do when they go in there is they genocide these people. They imprison them. They remove them from their own native tongue. So they're taking away their history. So it's the same historical process that's going on for everybody, right? So there's no way you can actually say, well, that we have a pretty good idea of what their history was, but not ours. This is for everybody. I think we all have to understand what's been taken from us.
Yeah, that's the big thing of we talk all the time. Well, I do, about the circle. It's just a continuous circle always, and it needs to be broken at some point for any kind of hope of change and whatnot. But we're talking about this with these buildings and everything, the Tartarian, like, I just imagine if the circle keeps spinning and everything keeps recycling itself, and then this moment or that moment comes back again. I want to see and know what that's going to be like. Like, is it going to be space flying, floating thing? It just makes my mind wonder, because these buildings and stuff that were destroyed or popped up out of nowhere are just so gorgeous and beautiful. And now we have these poo-hoo, ugly ass fucking things that go up, that go 80 million miles in the sky. Like, the circle's going to continue, and I feel like we're going to go back to the beauty, maybe. I mean, well past our time. We'll be bird food by then, but I just, like, if the circle doesn't get broken and we keep rinsing and repeating, it's going to be to me, it's just a fascinating thought to think of what all that architect and all that's going to look like. I could be just way off, but I don't
maybe
know.
we're remembering us remembering it now. That maybe is a way of us getting back to that, right?
Oh, yeah.
We got to remember as much as we possibly can now as the cycle proceeds. That's part of how I look at it too. Like, we might be living in an entirely previously terraformed realm by a creator, right? And what we think of as nature itself, in many respects, it could be just the remains of post-cataclysm architecture and infrastructure that's been obliterated to the point of that you can't tell that it was architecture or infrastructure.
Yeah.
Now that's getting pretty deep into the meltology end of it, which is interesting. If you want to have a look at that one of these days, there's some people that in the architecture camp don't really get too deep into the meltology, but I think they're connected. So,
well, that's why oh, sorry, Corey, go ahead.
When we talk about, because when we talk about free energy and Tesla, like I said, I'm an electrician, and so, like, at some point you got to look into Tesla, because he is an integral part of electricity.
Mhm.
And I worked with an old timer in Colorado Springs, master electrician, and he said back in the 80s, after he'd gotten his master's, he was reading through some electrical theory books, and there was a small paragraph on Tesla. And this is like 84, 85.
Yeah.
And so he goes to his library and he asks for books on Tesla. And they're like, oh, we don't have anything. And so he goes to 4 different libraries in Colorado Springs. None of them have it. They tell him to go to the historic library where they keep older documents. And so he goes to the wing of that library. They make him fill out a form with his phone number, social security number. And then they put him in a small room and they brought him 2 newspaper clippings from 1899 and 1900 from when Tesla was doing his experiments in Colorado Springs, and a small little biography book. And he was not allowed to leave the library with that. He could only read it in this small little closet of a room. And that was 1985.
Yeah.
And the whole belief behind Tesla, not belief, it's fact, that he could give out free energy by tapping into the earth. And I've seen some people say, like, well, this is actually something that the old world had already discovered. I think with the fireplaces, with the ability to burn wood, would have been working off of some sort of frequency that Tesla had worked with. So I mean, he would be from that region where Tartaria is from.
Yeah.
Out in the Slavic area over there. On the
And who ruined him? Who ruined Tesla? Was it a robber baron?
Oh, it was I always
JP Morgan, one of those guys. JP Morgan, Westinghouse. JP Morgan.
Morgan was the guy that stopped his financing and then took just isolated him from the community, and
So
he
use
dies
no
by
suspect.
himself.
It's all the same names. It's like a group of 15 names that come up, over and over. It's
That's
pretty
why
obvious, actually.
one of the videos I could have swore I watched was with electricity in the in the old world, where there was no wires, there were no cables. It like with the fireplaces that didn't burn any wood, like it was all just connected, and the town just ran, and it was lit, and all it was so fascinating. I mean, that's so cool.
I got a clip of that, May, just talking about the tram network. Well, let me play that here real quick. This is San Francisco, Paris. I think this is all like 1904 time period.
Moving sidewalks.
Yeah, moving sidewalks. All right, we get excited there. It's just showing all these different countries with these, similar architecture everywhere.
Yeah, let's talk about the trams though. Like, because I always thought they were San Francisco and maybe some of the other major cities had them. I didn't realize once I started doing this research that we're going to find them in every town and city I look at in North America, and abroad, of course. They're everywhere. It almost doesn't matter how big the town is. It could be 2,000 people, but they got brick paved streets.
Sioux Falls had one. Sioux Falls. I had no clue. I had no clue we had one.
So why bury that is the next question. Why bury the fact that existed? Right? You could make a little park and have a monument or whatever, and some places do, but they don't want us to know that this was as widespread as it was. I think it's part of the infrastructure of the old world, right? That's how I look at that anyway. And then same with the canals, a lot of bridges. The infrastructure on some of the old bridges make no sense at all to think. And some of the old train stations, I don't know if you've seen those. I did a video on train stations in North America.
Yeah.
They're castles. They'll blow your mind. Absolutely. I mean, especially my early videos aren't great. I'm not a master video maker. You probably noticed. I'm just a guy. But the visuals, man, like some of the pictures, some of the old train stations are unreal.
But why go 5 steps forward, bury it, and go 18 steps backwards? Like that makes
okay. So that
makes no
sense.
Me,
I'm just gonna play. I'm gonna play in the make believe world here. All right, because I do know something about this short season, and the more I think about it, the more interesting I find the correlation. And but the belief that the reign of Christ has already taken place, the 1,000-year rule ended, and now the devil is let on the loose to sift between the good and evil. Wouldn't you want to destroy the evidence of the perfect society that had lived before it?
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, if you're going to establish, these institutions that are inherently wicked. I mean, we've researched this. We've Bohemia Grove, the Catholic Church, which is one of the oldest Christian institutions, the Romans, the Greeks, the Egyptians. Epstein Island is a perfect example of this in the monarchy. Wouldn't you want to make sure that, especially they got rid of Nikola Tesla and any information about him. There was a park named after him in Colorado Springs, and they changed the name of the park where he had
Wow.
done his experiments.
I did a video on Colorado Springs, by the way, just FYI.
Oh, I'll have to look at that. I'll have to look at I haven't anything
like
you thought interesting there? Because that would have been around that time
Oh
period.
yeah, the old high school there is ridiculous. Ridiculous. It's long gone now, right?
Yeah.
A couple hotels too. Antler, the Antler Hotel, Antler Inn or something.
Yeah. Yes.
Going
Yeah.
off
I've been
memory
in the
now.
basement of the Antler Hotel.
Okay.
Doing I did a couple service calls there, and that is it is ancient. You feel like you're in a different world when you go down there.
Interesting.
And there is cutouts for windows and that have been bricked off and
Underground.
so forth.
That's what I want to know about with the mudslides or whatever, and you see like what seems to be basement. Is there more like just buried or is that flush, and as they've uncovered it and whatnot, like I guess I'm trying to figure out how to explain this, but like when you're supposedly in that basement, like is there more levels down? Because a lot of these buildings look like
even here in Sioux Falls,
that
like
could be bigger
you look at
windows.
some of these buildings, and you're just like, there's Rochester, Minnesota. I don't know if you've ever done any thing on that town, but I used to go there every year, and the underground system there, it's full of streets and tunnels. That full buildings and shops and stuff, all built underneath the city of Rochester, Minnesota.
Wow. I know they have the Mayo building there,
Yep,
the Mayo
yep.
plant. That's the only one I'm familiar with there.
Yep. We do have another caller here, Charlie Moan. I think I pronounced that right. Charlie Moan,
Moen, just like
Moen.
Yeah.
Okay, right. You're not moaning over there. You're
No,
moaning.
I'm not yet. This is the first time I've ever called into a show.
Thank you, Charlie. We appreciate it. So
I'm a follower of Chris's channel, and
Well, thank you.
For I think like about 6 months now.
Oh, okay.
But I've been following John Levi for like 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
I'm with New West Reset. Also, I've been following.
Oh yeah, Frankie. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw your show with Michelle Gibson. In fact, I think that was the first time I saw you, Chris.
Okay.
But I just wanted to, because of John Levi, he said on one of his shows, he said, every hometown has these buildings in it. And I originally come from Maine, a little town in Maine, Winslow, Maine. And when he said that, I went into, I'm in North Carolina now. I moved away 4 years ago. But it brought back a memory of something that happened when I worked at the railroad in 1983. They were excavating a building for a building to be put in by the paper mill where I eventually would be working in a few years after this point. And my cousin was a foreman on the job, and I was actually being laid off that month, but they had excavated to put the foundation in, and they dug up a cobblestone street that was underneath the ground, like 15, 20 feet down.
Really?
Oh, wow.
And then just recently, a couple months ago, I went into some more research. I've been, downloading pictures from the main archives, old pictures of floods and all. So I found pictures of a trolley car going across the trolley bridge into the town that I lived in back in the early 1900s. it's like a, it's a photograph that's been turned into a postcard, so the quality isn't that good. But I find out by doing all this digging, I find out that there was a walking steel bridge. It was like a toll bridge that goes from that town over to the next city across the river. And this is all next to the paper mill. I find out that in 1900, they showed a picture of that walking bridge. And it was like, here again, a postcard, so the quality wasn't that great. And when you zoomed in on the picture, you could see that they were constructing a 3-story building along the riverbank next to that bridge. But in 1902, I saw another post that said that bridge was wiped out in the flood of 1902. And I'm saying, what else was buried in that flood of 1902? That cobblestone street. I think that paper mill was there a whole lot longer than just 100 years ago. The foundation of that build. I worked in that mill 2 years later after in 1983. And one of my jobs was walking down in the basement, checking meters and stuff. And that foundation went on forever under the mill. And as the further down you went, the older it looked. And anyways, I just wanted to call in and everybody should go look into the archives of their old hometowns.
Yeah.
And,
it's everywhere, right?
1937 atlas that I found at a transfer station book repository.
Oh, that's awesome.
My town of Winslow only had 3,000 people in 1937. And yet in the early 1900s, they had a trolley car.
Something's not right.
And
I was going to ask you that, Charlie. When was your town officially established over there?
Well, they didn't even have a newspaper in 1902. The town of Winslow didn't have a newspaper. The next town over did. And so I haven't been able to get any newspaper archives. You got to pay to get any information from these places.
Yep.
They make it just as hard as they can, so you can't.
Charlie,
I'm 67 years old, and it's just been in the last 2 years that I've realized they've lied to us about everything.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Everything, our religion, everything. Yeah.
What was
there's a cathedral in I think I might have told Chris about it. Lewis, Maine has a cathedral, and I tried to get pictures of the construction of that, and here again, the construction photos are a joke. I spent 30 years in roofing, standing seam metal roofing.
Oh yeah.
And I worked around contractors who were building. We worked in some big buildings in Portland, Maine, and I worked with masonry and stuff. There's no way that you're building that building in 1929, which they're claiming. You go on and look up the cathedral in Lewiston, Maine. It's unbelievable.
Now I want to just present the devil's advocate here. Like, when you talk about religious buildings, do you think that under any possibility that you could get these buildings built that quickly due to just how staunch people are towards their faith, especially back in the 1900s, that worship to participate.
No. And, there was that town of Lewiston, Maine didn't really have that many people back then either. I'd have to search it in the book here, but you could probably go online and find what the population in 1929 was when they built that cathedral.
Well, it's the same story everywhere. That's what's so amazing.
Yeah,
you can throw a dart at the map, and you're going to come up with a similar narrative.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to let you guys go.
Charlie, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Charlie.
It's the first time I've ever got onto a live thing.
We're honored to have you. You're our second to first caller. So
I'm gonna subscribe to your channel too.
Hey, thank you.
Oh,
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, Charlie Moen. We and anything you guys want to say about what Charlie said there that stood out to you?
Well, I just wanted to make the point that it's those type of stories, like individual testimonies of people in different areas that don't know each other, that can bring, like your story too, about where you've worked. I think people are seeing it more and more. And as you're walking down your streets, you know, everyone's got a story to tell from their different areas. So I think putting this together like this is important to do, and we need, I guess, more areas to do that as well, because you could just flood the narrative with testimonials, right? Like that building's got 3 basements, whatever. That there's no way that cathedral was built in 8 months. You just got to keep throwing stories at it, because I can do one town. I can do is it Sioux Falls?
Yep, Sioux Falls. Yep,
I could do
right
Sioux
next to
Falls.
Sioux City.
Yeah, that's confusing.
Yeah.
But I could do that one, and people say, well, Sioux Falls had this many people. They had some rich people, and that's the end of the story. But when I start to do more cities, you start to realize, okay, it's everywhere. So usually when I tell somebody who makes a comment on my videos that this town was especially industrious, I say, no, they weren't. Look at my other videos. It was everywhere, you know. So
we got Jake in here for another question. Jake, what's your question you got here?
No, I just put it in chat. I didn't even need to come back in, but I did Charlie was awesome, and I would just say
Charlie was awesome.
I've done the same research on my hometown, northern Wisconsin, 600 people, smaller than most people will ever know or experience, and peaked at supposedly 1,000 people at about the turn of the century. It was a logging community. The founder came up a railroad, right? We're talking about late 1800s, comes up a railroad, jumps off, and then suddenly this town pops out of nowhere. This town, again, hasn't had a building built in 40 years, guys. Nothing happens here. And there were 3, there are sadly only 1 or 2, but there were at least 3 red brick buildings whose, when you go into the entrance of them, you are met by an immediate half flight up or down in stairs. Now think about that. Who builds that way? Nobody builds that way. It doesn't make any sense. My school, when you walked in, the old 38 building is what it was called. It was a 4-story brick building, okay, red brick building, ornate brickwork, masonry. When you walked in the entrance, you had to go down or up. You weren't on the first floor. I mean, this just doesn't make any sense. These buildings were here, and most of them are partially submerged or sunken or something, because the windows are all full frame. They go to the underground, which also doesn't make any sense. You never build that way. We don't build that way. And I've never heard anyone give me a good argument as to why they would have built that way then.
Well, and you see all these bricked up entrances, or, you know, in some of these buildings, or some buildings, you know, they turn them into bars and stuff. And in my mind, the explanation had always been like, well, in Rome, they find this all the time, you know, and so they just built on top of stuff until, you know, and so I just didn't even, that was the explanation given to me, and then I paid no more heed to it. But then you start looking, it's like, okay, I can understand Rome, you know, thousands of years, things get forgotten, lost, broken down. But San Francisco, you know, that's not even that old.
North America is key. It's so crucial.
Especially the Midwest, even, and the West, but the Midwest doesn't make any sense to me.
Midwest, dude, I spent literally all day, Chris, I'm fanboying you, dude, but like I spent all day looking at the Milwaukee video, because my dad grew up in Milwaukee. And my grandmother worked in one of those buildings. Like, I looked at the Schlitz building, what they did to it. They lopped off its head, but it was amazing. I mean, hundreds of unbelievable structures. I was Google street walking the streets of, they took what was Grand Ave, they turned it into Wisconsin Ave by consolidating multiple streets, and you still have a succession of 3 cathedrals there. And in the middle of the street, there's an obelisk, and the obelisk used to have a golden eagle on top of it, or something that looks like a golden eagle, probably a phoenix. And now it's not there anymore. The ball is still there, the concrete ball, but the eagle is gone.
All great points. I wanted to go in. Anything else, Jake? Did you have anything else?
No. Chris, what do you think about that, though? Like, have you thought about those things before?
Oh, definitely. I think a lot of these, if there's a grid, like you were talking about from Florida earlier, there's a predetermined grid, and I think post-cataclysm, digging out of the old world and reestablishing of these cities, and then the Masonic organizations and the religious organizations take a stranglehold on society itself, right? And then that's how they reset us. And couple wars, bing bang boom, we're a bunch of idiots.
Great points brought up, Jake. If you think
Yeah,
of something
I'll chill
else,
in the lobby, guys. I didn't even need to come back in, but awesome. I love everyone.
We love you too, Jake. We love you too.
He's a beauty.
Well, it's amazing, because like this is all very new to us. So, it's amazing to see I mean, we're up to like 170 people watching the live stream right now.
Cool.
And it's all because of you, old world, so thanks for letting us right off your back. Appreciate that.
What do you think? What do you guys think of the energy behind this research? Do you find that there's like a fire behind it?
There's a sincerity behind it. That's what I've noticed is like people are very, I mean, it's not a bunch of, it's not an emotional plea. I mean? People aren't having this emotional outburst trying to convince you of this theory. It's just like, hey, man, look at this building. Isn't that weird? Look at this. And I think it appeals to people like us who are in the construction business, know how long it takes to get a goddamn building built. And that's with today's equipment. And we're in this whole time, since we were 6 years old, we were told, hey, this was built in 1902 by, da 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 da.
The 32 people that lived here.
Yeah, and it was quarried from this quarry place, and moving on. And then you're like 6 years old, and you're like, oh Jesus, in 1902 is a long time ago. You don't think about power tools, you don't think about no vehicles, you don't think about all of the logistics.
Everything was built off a horse's back. Like it's just there's no way. Like it's fascinating because to throw Dave in with the 32 or 33 worlds, the whole, like ice wall thing. Like it's those other worlds. Like, are they? I just want to know. Like, I think it'd be fascinating to think like one of those out there is still filled with the beautiful buildings and the
maybe they all are. Maybe ours.
yeah.
Maybe it's just ours that isn't. Maybe we're just
Right?
trapped in a little. Maybe we're sectioned off like The Simpsons. Remember
Yeah,
that?
like
The Simpsons?
Elon, I need you to figure out a way to get me over there because I just want to go check him out. Because when Corey told me this, I got so excited because I've always liked the buildings and just you drive through just towns and whatnot, and you're just like, man, that's beautiful. And then you go, and then it disappears, and then it comes back, and then it's there's just no way, and it's just to me, it's just been so fascinating the short week that I've had to look into this. Like, I probably sent Corey 8 billion videos on all topics from the blimp things that were landing on top of these buildings to the kids, running the factories and the parents getting locked up in insane asylums. They're all just different strokes and different wide views of all of this kind of time period where it's just super fascinating. And then it all just disappears.
Let me play a clip of the airship thing because the dome thing has always gotten me because I always imagined, that it was always bragged as a Russian thing, the dome on top of these buildings. You see it all over in Russia. Didn't really see it anywhere else, but you always see these domes on the Capitol buildings and these other huge ancient buildings. And there was this TikTok here. I'll play a little bit of this.
I would like to touch on Tartarian airships. So in the old world, there were a lot of different innovations when it came to airships to carry passengers from one place to the other through the air. They looked like submarines, but that could fly and had wings. Now, of course, in modern day times, we know the Goodyear blimp. And the Goodyear blimps were just our versions of those Tartarian airships. And some of those airships even...
This docking thing.
Yeah.
Is that
some
real?
Of them, some of them were built admittedly to have that dock. I think there's one in Atlanta. Seattle had one as well. And that was the intention, was for them to dock these airships, apparently.
I had no clue. I mean, there's another picture of it right there, docking.
Yeah.
Does it explain like who got into the airline business and then their plan was to get rid of this because it was cheaper and easier and more convenient? Or is this a big money grab just with the 15 popular names that want to control everything? Is this another part of why it disappeared?
That would be my guess without diving into the names behind it.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's all part of getting onto the the internal combustion engine and all the rest of it, taking away what they call free air travel.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean Rothschilds, Rockefeller, their family, the Kabbalah, the religious belief all comes from that Eastern European area of what would supposedly be Tartaria, which I don't know if that's true or not, but I do know that their origins go back thousands of years to that area. The Star of David comes from that area.
Yeah, I've hypothesized about that. They could be using some sort of Kabbalistic magic to keep our reality together in their favor, and it's failing now.
Well,
That's just me musing it, but
we listen to
I love that.
anyone who enjoys podcasts like this. Check out No Agenda in the morning. It's a great podcast. But there's this discussion, like there is this line of people that they wear the turtlenecks, the Bill Gates, the Steve Jobs, these people that Walt Disney, people that had the ability to use uh altered realities to control people's mindsets. You look at those old Disney movies and all that stuff, there's symbolisms scattered throughout it. And who, when it came to propagating the US, was called upon? It was the media. It was Walter Disney, ran a crap ton of propaganda films for the military. So, like, is this a cult of people that have survived from this time too, that have this knowledge? Do you think the Masons are involved with this at all, or?
I think the hierarchy that the Masons find themselves in, and you go right to the top. I'm not going to say to the top because I don't know where the top is, but the British monarchy is admittedly heavily involved at the higher echelons of the Freemasonic order. So that's pretty obvious, that one. But yeah, I think it's all part of keeping the new world fabric intact and taking over what was the old world. So I think they're a large part of it, the Freemasons. Michelle Gibson's got an interesting theory on. We're talking about these cabal families, bloodlines, or whatever you want to call it. She thinks that somebody found a way to bring certain entities into this reality. We're going back into the John Dee era now, 400 or 500 years or whatever.
Okay.
And they were able to manifest, because you get into the timelines of when the Rothschilds really start to take hold in the banking industry, and then the British monarchy starts to get hijacked by certain bloodline families. It seems to align with a certain timeline. So that's a part of her theory, and I find that interesting.
Like German Rosicrucianism, like during that period of time, dark magic is really sort of
they start getting, something along those lines, that they start getting into but they start taking over the financial aspect of society. I think it's 1776. I don't know exactly. You'd have to dig into her work a bit on it, but I think it's interesting because I think we are dealing with a dark entities that don't have our best interests. That's obvious. I mean, at this point, and I really think all we need to do is just admit they exist, and then they're done.
Yeah. Well, in Old World, Florida, the YouTube channel there has come out with a video on Jekyll Island, the financial institution that runs the United States, and really the world. Being honest, as hard as other nations. I mean, it just shows the effort other nations are trying to break free from this currency, and how much work has to go into place just to attempt it with BRICS. There's no guarantee BRICS is going to succeed. But we talk about the hijacking of the American government through the Federal Reserve, and Rockefeller's house is built on an ancient Indian mound, supposedly where the altar to sacrifice children is in his basement. Now, that could have been some embellishing by Old World Florida. There's no way to, unless you go in there and see it for your own eyes. But the fact that this Molech theme follows into the New World, this aspect of sacrifice, and to produce, some real, you look at what the Federal Reserve has done. And we talked about it last week about how the dollar bill is just full of these, I think personally the dollar bill is a talisman, being used for dark magic reasons, with all the inscriptions and symbolisms printed on it.
Are you advocating? Are you advocating for a cashless society with that statement?
Yes,
or-
no. Squeeze your silver. That's all I'm saying. Squeeze your silver.
Yeah. Yeah. No. Yeah. The financial system is keeps us all in check, really. Right. That's a.
Yeah. Tracy Jones brings up a great comment. Rockefeller saw that no one was reading scripture, so he decided to take all the symptoms of the unseen spiritual battle,
Mhm.
unclean spirits, and say they are now symptoms of mental illness. So, I mean, I think pharmaceuticals have contributed quite heavily towards mental illness in our country, especially to kids. But that's the whole idea: is you keep everyone busy. Internet comes out. Well, how are you going to control people when they have access to all of this information now and resources to talk to people from different parts of the world? Well, you put them on meds and you scatter their brains and you prevent them from having energy to do research on matters like this.
Yeah.
I
Jake
can't
makes a
remember.
good point about you teach them fake history. You convince them everything has been explored. Yeah, and you just exactly. I mean, I couldn't have said it better. I mean, everything has already been solved. Nothing new, nothing shiny's coming. It's all here what it is. It's just gonna just multiply.
I talk about that a lot. That's what Darwin was there for. I think all of that is to make us think we come from monkeys, that
Mhm.
there's no God, no creator. It's all just a random accident. So they had to falsify our timeline to keep us in this false impression of who and what we really are. And once we break their conditioning, which is what I think we're doing, we're off to the races. I think they just
We
need to
got
wake up to it.
We got a caller in, Travis. Travis, gonna make us all feel bad by doing this call shirtless.
Oh
Travis,
no, man!
it's fine, man. I get it. You want to show off. It's fine.
No. I'm just, bro. Like, bro. So I'm a street dude from Atlanta. You know what I'm saying? Doggone, and like if you think about it, this is the last demographic you would think would be in the chat. You know what I'm saying? Doggone, bro. Like this is what I go to sleep on. I go to sleep on listening to all this history and looking up stuff. Like, bro. I purposely go and ride the train and the bus in Atlanta now and just go and put my hands on this old world stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like,
nice.
Oh yeah.
bro, it's
Is
amazing.
it all over? Is it all over Atlanta? I don't know anything
All
about Atlanta.
over. Hey, bro, the damn what that shit called? The World's Fairs.
Yes, yeah.
Man, bro, it's called Piedmont Park now.
Piedmont, yeah. I did Atlanta. I did one on Atlanta.
Man, hey, bro, I probably watched yours, bro. I go down there, I put my hands on that shit. I be like, oh my goodness.
You feel something. It's like an
Yes.
energy because I've done it in Nashville, like running around Nashville, like something just kept you like, I swear, you just, it's interesting. It's so interesting.
And then doggone our state capital, like our state capital, of course got the dome, doggone, but then that motherfucker gold is gold, and then it's a lady standing on top of it, like shit, who that lady is, like who they praying to, you know what I'm saying? Like, man, oh man.
What would you say your biggest question, since we've got Chris here? What would be your question for Chris?
I would say, I didn't really question. It's like really wild. It came to, it's like doggone. We done came to the conclusion. It's good and bad. And doggone, whether I ain't religious, but I believe in good and bad. And doggone, what I learned, do not fear the bad shit. Like whenever some bad shit happening, be like, you know what I'm saying?
Make it smaller. Make it smaller.
Yeah, make it 100%.
Yeah, like because that's what evil feed off of.
Yeah, they want you to panic and set it in.
It's awesome, Travis. It's awesome.
For real.
Like that.
And look, that's why I want to call in, because like shit, bro, I'm gonna keep it real, bro. Well, I ain't gonna say the N word, but I'm
I'm glad you called in, man. Like this is I'm fascinated by. We've had someone from Maine, we had someone from Florida, now we got someone from Atlanta,
Yes,
and
sir.
like I said, all of the energy when people are talking about this is the same. It's just like something is not right.
Something ain't right.
Something is not right. Well,
Something
hey, give us a follow, Travis.
Yes, sir.
We appreciate you, bringing up the women viewership in this. Thank you so much,
bro, I'm skinny. I'm skinny as hell, bro.
That's enough. It's enough.
It's funny.
No, thank Travis for calling in. Yeah,
That's
no, I
cool.
mean, I'm sure you're used to this everywhere you go. Was there anything about Atlanta that stood out to you the most?
Oh, Atlanta was ridiculous. It was the stories though. The Civil War. Sherman, was it General Sherman?
Yep.
Like torched his way across Georgia as he left Atlanta, destroying every city along the way, or something like that. It was like if he couldn't have it, then they couldn't have it too. No, I don't know.
I was from Iowa, raised in Iowa, and it was the Iowa battalions that decimated Atlanta.
Oh,
So
okay.
whenever I have friends from Atlanta, I always bring that up to them.
Yeah, because it strikes a nerve, right? Just like the Civil War reenactments that you guys do down there too. That's fucking weird. That's weird. I'm just saying.
I like your thought on that on the Civil War. Like, can
It's a
you?
trigger.
Yeah,
It's a
can you
total-
go into that a little bit? Because
Well, it's
I
a total
just
anchor point. It's a total trigger point in the timeline, the historical timeline, especially in North America. Canada becomes a country in 1867, which is right after your Civil War. We get the Great Fires in Boston and Chicago in 1871. Right, so this is all right in around that same timeline. I think it's 1872. You get USA Incorporated. And a lot of people have done the research on the Civil War, say that basically the British got their stranglehold on the U.S. financially through the Civil War, and that's why it became USA Inc. Right, so I don't know. It kind of makes sense timeline with the destruction, with the wanton destruction. Like a Civil War, you're going to destroy infrastructure too. I don't know. It's usually a battle of people versus people, and you're doing it to preserve the infrastructure. So
yeah. Well, that's why I was wondering if there was inside missions of, almost certain or certain buildings, certain things that had to go. Like there was almost a list,
I would
and
think
each
so.
battalion or each company was responsible, for this and that. Because I'll have to rewatch it. But in Band of Brothers, I could have swore there was an episode on that on trying to protect certain buildings while they were over there fighting, and because they knew that the plan was to erase that, almost make it like it never existed, and trying to protect it so it stood, so people understood what was here at one time, and not all great times were lost, even though a terrible war is put its nasty claws in. But that's what I was wondering. That's interesting. Thank you for going into that.
Have you ever looked into the country of India and some of their old structures?
Oh yeah.
So I wanted to play this clip. This is from Pravi Mahon. And let me see here, pull it up here real quick. But he talks about, and this is just one example of many, but this one temple. And what's interesting about those temples is almost all of the faces have either been chopped off or scrubbed out. And they would have been discovered around this 1850 to 1900 time period.
Like everything else.
Yes, like everything else. Yep. And he goes in. I just thought this was interesting. We can stop.
Archaeologists found an ancient wire in the Chandi Kimpulan temple in Indonesia. Yes, this is the actual picture of that high quality.
So they found this altar here on this statue. And underneath of it, that's a picture of the statue right there. So they removed this whole block, and underneath there was a hole, and they found this container full of coiled up copper wire, which they're saying this is from 1200 years ago. And
is that a guess?
And
carbon dated guess?
That's just it. Who knows when it comes to time?
Yeah, it's all guesswork. That's the thing, right?
It is. But the official record is 1200 years old. But now you've got this tubular copper wire, which, I didn't know they had the ability to do that. And they find all these
We're
other pots full of these silver and gold medals. And what he
generating
discovers is
electricity
really
from
interesting
the
what it
lingam.
does.
But this is nonsense, right? It is pseudoscience to guess that these items found here could somehow make electricity. Real science involves demonstrable evidence. Unless you take a pot, put some husk, put iron and silver plates and
So he
generate.
goes ahead and reenacts
Let's
this.
use copper wires, just like what we found in the temple, to check if we get electricity via the voltmeter. But I'm shocked because there is no electricity. Pouring water on the lingam. This is a well-known ritual to Hindus, so let's do that. Let me pour water on top of the lingam to unleash the power. And look, just like magic, we see electricity rising in the pot.
Just, and I just thought this was
I mean, it's well before its time. Like that is genius.
According to what they tell us, right?
Yeah,
we get
exactly.
the who's the Edison? We get the Edison version, right? Westinghouse and Edison version of
Yes.
electricity. It's bullshit. Yeah.
Well, and that's the problem with Tesla is he figures out like, hey man, I mean that's the whole premise. He goes to JP Morgan, he's like, hey, I discovered how everyone can get free electricity. Imagine what we can do. And immediately shut down.
Yeah, of course.
It's over.
But I mean, it is interesting how, like, throughout the whole country, all these buildings we went over it earlier, they all look very similar, and that right there has to tell you, like, there was something widespread and together and had one mindset, one belief to just build all. They're all gorgeous. They all look very similar. Like, it would make you kind of pause if it was in one part of the world or not. But for it to go all over is, and then they just want to be like, oh no, we built that with our donkeys and our 12 people, and they could blah blah blah. But it kind of frustrates me because why kill it? Why crush it? What's the harm in it? But I mean,
we got another caller here, May. Dr. Ben is waiting in the green room here at him. Dr. Ben, how's it going?
Pretty good. Pretty good.
Are you an actual doctor?
Where are you?
I am legally prohibited from discussing my. I'm in Ohio. I was watching. I only know your name's Chris from Old World Exploration.
Yeah.
I've only seen your channel. A few different channels I watch. I always enjoy all of the presentations. It's fantastic. And I was just, the thing I have seen is that all of the same, both like names, the different peculiarities, the different all the aspects with like giant skeletons. Of course, my town has giant skeletons that were
really
picked, unearthed or whatever back in the day, and it's it's still local, like, oh, that's not real, and it's like, maybe, I don't know. But what I really wanted to like point out, I worked at this place called Chautauqua Institution in Chautauqua, New York for a while, and it this was years and years ago that I worked there, and when I was there, it was like an odd place, right? Like there was a place that looked like the Greek Parthenon, and like all kind. There was a little scale map of the Holy Land down by the lake, and so I'm watching you guys talking, and I'm like, well, let me look up Chautauqua, and of course, it's listed as it was founded in 1874, and the founder's daughter was Mina Miller Edison, who was the wife of inventor Thomas Edison. And it's just, you go through it, and it's all sorts of like famous presidents, inventors, all this different things, all had something to do with this place. It was a whole sort of new age movement back in the 1800s. And there's, I guess, at least my question is, what is anyone considered, or maybe not considered, but concerned that eventually there'll be some sort of pushback against this whole community? Because I know community's kind of like disjointed a little bit, like the fella above me, cussing with Hussing.
Cussing with Hussing, yeah.
I like that.
Yes, thank you. When you're
Like-
fussing, yeah, you call in on Hussing. All right, sorry.
Like you said, you didn't know about John Levi, unless you were just being sarcastic.
No,
okay,
never heard of it.
But there's a lot of so many different people in the different areas of the community don't know about this person or don't know about that person, or the business with the small season. My concern is once things get a little bit more cohesive, if you will, that there'll be some sort of pushback to label what do you want to call it, the old history or forgotten history or Tartarian movement. And you see anytime there's a different alternative styled community or anything, they'll get labeled as something derogatory. You know what I mean?
That's, we're already there in many regards. It's not
right.
It's not big enough. It's not big enough like Flat Earth, to marginalize in that way. But I'm sure it'll come, and I'm sure there have been people involved. There's the one guy, AWA or something like that. He might have done the big 5-hour documentary you were watching there, that you tapped out of. But then he did a complete flip flop on most of his theories. And
Really?
Everything
Really?
I was telling you guys was crap, and here's the actual history is what they tell us.
Well, I remember the old days of YouTube when conspiracy YouTube was, at its height, and you typed in whatever you wanted to type in, and you could find the videos you were looking for. And I always feel like I'm on the right trail of something when I go to research some subject, and I just get nonstop fluff pieces on YouTube and Google. And at that point, I know, okay, this requires a little bit more digging. There's something folded behind what's going on. And then, after, and sometimes you have to dig. And with this subject, you have to dig because, first of all, like even with TikTok, there's a crap ton of videos that if you type in Tartaria are going to be like maybe 1 or 2, 4, and then you're going to get bombed with everyone calling you an idiot. And and I think whenever you see an algorithm forced one way, YouTube changed it to where you type in things and it's just blank until you hit search. I don't know if you guys noticed that change. That happened during the Alex Jones years, and they kept it with other type of conspiracy theories that were going on. And so I feel like you guys are on to something, and that's why I wanted to have Old World Exploration, Chris on. And that's the idea of our show is, we're a podcast for the curious mind. So when we we're just two guys, like we're not gonna, that's why we want to have guests like Chris on, because these are, this is someone who, you're just out there doing your own research, and you spent a lot longer time, Chris, on it than I have, but so that's why your viewpoint, I mean, you've done over 200 cities at this point,
I just collected a lot of visuals, and I got to a point where I wasn't able to share it in my day-to-day with people that appreciated it. So I figured I got to do something. So I decided to make a YouTube channel and just show the pictures that I have of what I think are old world structures or whatever.
Like I said before, Corey told me this was happening. I was always interested in the old buildings and whatnot, but like this has got me so deep in, like I love it. Like it makes me just want to go more and more, like to be in that group. Yeah, labels are gonna fly and whatnot, but nowadays labels can fly and they're not gonna hurt you and they're not gonna point you in a corner. You can band together, you can be strong, and you can just fight the haters and the naysayers. Like the world we live in now. Yeah,
officialdom is dead, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Dr. Ben, when did you discover this theory about the old world, and what was the defining moment that sort of drew you into noticing your perspective changing?
I think the first thing I remember hearing of, I was in a writers group, and one of the people was complaining about there's some girl on the internet who says the Roman Empire wasn't real. And I was like, what? I don't know if I that doesn't sound right. What do you mean? And they were just like, man, don't even look it up. Those people are just crazy. And I was like, oh, okay. And like, I didn't agree with them about anything already. So I was like, let me go check and see what I could find. And I think it might have been John Levi might have been the first one I found. And I just kept, like, I think on the bottom of his page, it had like other suggested channels, and just, that's how I found it. Is just pick.
Is there any buildings in your hometown that make you be like, God damn it, God damn it, what am I looking at here?
There is a couple of pretty big old churches. Like there's a giant old Catholic church that, has got the same huge, like 8 foot by 10 foot or whatever blocks. That's like, how did that even happen? Like, how did they build this, back in the 1800s? Like the whole area here was just mud, and then they built this.
Yeah.
That's why I love the Giants conversation. Like like that's so fascinating, because we have to know that these giants roamed the world, because nothing else makes sense in a way.
40-foot doors, right? The 30, 40-foot doors.
Yeah. And like you said, with the unbearing of these giants in certain locations and whatnot, and they're like, "Oh, what's that? I've never seen that before." And it's like, "Oh, come on, you've known about it. Everyone is known about it. You just
Smithsonian,
got,
right?
Yeah,
Smithsonian and National Geographic are need a really good looking at by the public.
Yeah.
I think we need to hold them accountable for what they're keeping from the public.
There was one I found today that wasn't in any of the different, Tartarian or like alternative history groups or channels, where they were talking about Indiana, and they were talking about all these the same thing, like cut stones, giant buildings, walls, and it was just this guy, and he's like, what's going on? Because they tell us that the Indians that were here were just primitive beings that were just barely subsisting.
Yep.
And from what I understand, the Indians have stories of there being a separate race that was here before them that would have been the Giants. So
that's interesting. I have a couple of friends that are Lakotan, part of the Sioux tribe there, and I'm gonna have to grill them on some of their ancient history. Because even native cultures, they've been so whitewashed that by the time they got back to their roots, they can only find things that still have ties into Christianity. It's very hard for them to discover what their ancient belief system was. So
same here where I am. Yep.
Yeah. But thanks so much, Dr. Ben. Any more questions you got for Chris?
No, just keep doing what you're doing. I would encourage anyone who is involved with this, exploring history, is put down your research, document it, get it into a hard copy, because, if everything's just in the cloud, I mean, it's on like that.
Take it.
I save everything offline for sure. Ben, you might renew my faith in doctors.
Yeah.
Not a medical doctor. Not a medical doctor.
Thanks so much,
again,
Dr.
fellas.
Ben. We appreciate it. Dr. Ben calling in.
That's I think Flat Earth Dave, he turned me on to somebody on TikTok, the Dr. Regenerated. I follow him on TikTok.
Yeah.
And he had a bunch of videos on, not a bunch, but he had a handful that were, right around this discussion. And I found it super interesting. And now, John Levi, you yourself, all these, I'm just, as we're talking, I'm going and just following people and just, getting into the community, because it's just so fascinating. I mean, it's like I said, it's heartbreaking that they want to erase it and change it and, put their own stamp on it. But I guess, unfortunately it's par for the course, it seems like. So
yeah, but why is it so empowering to research it? That's what struck me. Like I felt so alive looking into this.
Hopeful. I almost feel hopeful.
Absolutely.
Like when I watch this, it's not like watching Epstein Island. It's a completely different feeling. Like some of the stuff you see going on with the New World Order and these wars that they're creating, and you're just like, God, I have no control, and we don't. not individually. We have no control over that issue.
No, we
But
don't
when
have
they-
beefs. The people never have beefs with people in other countries. It's always the powers that shouldn't be.
Exactly.
We got Travis calling back in here. Travis, did you put a shirt on, or are you just?
Yes, sir.
Oh my
Yes,
God!
sir.
Look at.
Yes, sir.
Wow, look at this
Yes,
guy.
sir.
Oh my God! Well, this is where we get banned from YouTube. So follow us on Twitter.
No. I ain't gonna cuss. Doggone.
Go
But
ahead.
no.
Tell me what's on your mind. I see you changed your thing to "I don't think slavery happened." Do you think this is a change in old world history as well?
That's part of the reset, sir. That's part of the reset.
I hear you.
That's part of the reset.
Thank you for
Really?
saying that. Thank you for saying
And
that.
look,
Travis.
and look.
Can we go into that at all? Can we talk about that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Look,
It's
look,
random
look.
facts. So I'm curious because I've never heard this either. This is all new to me.
Man, bro, you ain't never heard it, but you thought about it before.
No, I've always believed slavery has happened. I think I've never been presented with. So
Okay,
Not in the way that we've been told.
there you go.
What do you mean, Chris? Explain
Bruh.
this to me.
Well, what's the point of us being so divided?
Ooh.
Who does that serve, right?
The devil. The devil. Like,
Say, what is it? Is it the Jim Crow laws came about in the 1890s? I think it was. I could be wrong on that.
I thought it was after the World War or after the Civil War, right? So it would have
that
been
was after. That was after slavery. That was after slavery.
Yeah, this all comes about. The division seems to have been seeded in our recorded history in the last 125 years. And who does it serve? It's because it's being used even right now in our modern day, right?
Every day.
To
all
confuse
the
the
time.
people. And
And
divide
look,
the people.
and look, it's not confusing us for right now, is it?
No,
No.
it's not.
Exactly. Like,
Well, as someone of
That's
Scott
why I
Steiner-
always say that if we come together as one, we are the scariest, strongest force
Game over.
that can
Game
be dealt
over.
with. But they don't want that. Every time we come so fucking close,
division,
something stupid fucking happens, and
Divide
then
and
boom.
conquer, right?
Yeah.
You know, I've seen this discussion about the closest we've gotten to it in our generation was the Tea Party and Occupy Wall Street were both at their height at the same time in 2010. And after that point, if you look onto media coverage, the charge for racism spikes higher than ever before in news coverage. And you sort of see them testing it. I forget the young man that got shot for hands up, don't shoot, which clearly that wasn't the narrative. You know, but they didn't accomplish what they wanted there.
Exactly.
And then George Floyd came along and 2020 happened.
He was a drug addict.
And you guys have intelligence agencies down there in the States, don't you?
Yes.
Does that have anything to do with any of this?
It has everything to do
Just
with
a
all of this.
smidge. Just
Yeah,
a
it has
smidge.
everything to do with all
CIA,
this.
FBI. Look at fellas. I stayed in Atlanta. Doggone, it's a thing called the GBI, just like the FBI. It's literally right here in the hood of Atlanta. You know what I'm saying? Doggone,
What does it stand for?
I guess Georgia Bureau of Investigation. I guess. Doggone.
Interesting.
But no, look. So like, okay, I'm a diesel technician. I work on the 18 wheelers. Doggone, that ain't no black folk job. I work with a bunch of white boys. Doggone, bro. I've been working this shit for 10 years. These white boys have taught me so much. Doggone, I love and respect these boys. Doggone, they ain't never tried to kill me. You know what I'm saying? Doggone, but when I walk out the house, it be folks who look like me trying to kill me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Doggone, but like when you listen to the Democrats or whatever, they try to you know what I'm saying? Doggone, man.
Well, and it's not just a Democrat thing; it's a Republican thing too. It's a
both sides. Both sides of
these
the aisle.
parties
Unfortunately,
love division.
You're right. You're right.
It's just a matter how you establish it. You know, the Democrats, their bread and butter for the last 50 years has been racism, and they're good at it. They're good at propagating.
that's why there's not a one-party system. It's division from the beginning. You have division from as long as you can remember back, and as long as you can open up that crusty old textbook from that 98-year-old teacher. Like, it's division from the get-go as soon as you were small. And now it's gotten so bad where you know, like little ones are getting raised on that, and they just think it's pure evil, and they feed on, and it has to change. And I'm afraid that this train is gonna last a little longer than we need it to.
Because
Unfortunately,
look, I'm gonna tell you, like I be seeing it. It's because you got dumb people raising children. That's the
Yep.
problem. That's the problem.
Well, and
Like, bro,
it's
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off. My bad.
go. I don't think it's dumb people. I mean, I think it's people are not allowed to raise their children. We are enslaved to the dollar and our debts and to survive in a society. And both parents have to work and to provide for for children, and then boom, you're not raising your kids, the system is.
But look,
and everyone ends up being worse off because of it.
but look, I'm 33 years old. Like I said, born and raised in Atlanta.
Lucky number.
Doggone, yeah, shit. It's been a hell of a year, doggone. But doggone. So, bro, my mom and my daddy, they raised from South Georgia. They country ass motherfuckers. They doggone Democrat, doggone. So how did I find myself here with you guys? Doggone off of me exploring. You know what I'm saying? Doggone thinking outside the box. That's the problem. It's like
you can't buy into the stereotypes. That's what kills everybody, and that's what kills it all. Is the stereotypes. They want you to feed into the stereotypes, so you hate your neighbor, you hate the different color of skin, you hate the religion, you hate all of it. Like they want you to buy in to the stereotypes, because that'll keep their fighting. They're doing it for. I mean, we're doing it for them. And
guys, it's the same here. I'm in Canada. It's the same here. We're trained to think of you guys as a bunch of crazy idiots.
Crazy Americans.
It's the same thing. You don't want to be like the Americans. That's what they're gearing. It never used to be that way. Growing up, everybody wanted to be like the Americans. Now they've turned on you guys internationally.
We got a new caller calling in, Travis.
All
I'm going to let you
All
go.
right, fellas. It's nice talking to y'all again.
Take care,
Thanks, Travis.
Yes,
Call
sir.
in anytime. New caller for we got New World Over here. Welcome aboard, New World Over.
Oh, hey guys. Awesome to be able to speak with you today.
Yeah, man. Thanks for calling in. What's on your mind?
Oh man, I was just I was glad that I was able to catch you guys live. You know, honestly, I watched Lucius Aurelian. Like, yeah, he's like top notch. Blows my mind every time. So I know that you guys make videos sometimes, and I'm constantly churning out your content to whoever subscribes to me, because I feel like it's important on a lot of levels, on a spiritual level, on a lot. Yep.
When did you start, especially with this line of subject of the old world? When did this get introduced to you, and when did you start seeing your surroundings with a different perspective?
Well, I definitely started looking into just like history, like U.S. history in general, during the 2020 time, because there was a lot happening, and I felt like, I feel like a lot of people were just like wanting to learn something, because there was, just everything that was being pushed onto us. And then I stumbled upon the World's Fairs, and I was like I was just blown away. I'm like, how could this be here? And then like we're not being taught about it. And I'm like, I just felt like this euphoric rush. Like, honestly, I was like, this is beautiful, we're not just a bunch of, wagoners, like there was something magnificent here or something, and then I found out about, Tartaria, and I started reaching like reading deeply into flamenco's work and stuff like that, and then I started questioning a lot, all the crazy stuff that's been pushed onto us, and then just like random stuff like the Queen, not like the one that was just but like Henry John Temple, or whoever.
I haven't heard any of the
Victoria's
I haven't heard
Secret.
Yeah, I haven't heard any of these stories, you know, like this is all still very fresh, you know. So when you throw these names out, I'm like, what? The Queen? What? Like, who are you talking about? The Queen?
Oh yeah, Victoria's
The
Secret,
Victorian
man.
era.
Victoria's Secret, man.
The
Yeah, she's
Victorian
got a
era
secret.
it's a
Yeah,
victory over the old world.
she got a dang-a-lang.
Really?
Yeah, man.
Is that why he committed
Henry John
suicide?
Temple? Henry John Temple. Yeah, look it up. You know,
Well, he committed
who knows?
suicide, didn't he?
Who?
The creator of the franchise Victoria's Secret. I believe he committed suicide.
I mean, it seems like everyone's dropping like flies.
No,
but, you know.
I was talking about Queen Victoria.
Yeah, Queen Victoria, she got a secret.
Yeah, Corey, I don't think they were talking about the store in the mall.
You know, my
But Corey, that's a great sink, though. That's a great sink. I like
Yeah, the guy did end up killing himself that sold Victoria's Secret because he ended up selling it, and then the guy turned it into like a multi-billion-dollar industry.
That's okay.
Yeah.
I was trying
those
to.
corporations
It links up
are
with
tied
Epstein
into
Island
the
too, doesn't
same,
it?
You know what?
It links up with Epstein Island again, doesn't it? The Victoria's
Yeah,
Secret guy?
yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, it's all connected. I mean, you don't get anywhere in this world without selling yourself to somebody, some way. You know.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and that's just it. Is you know, I firmly believe we live in a corporatocracy. You know, where we are sold off to the highest corporation that wants to publish whatever crap we're selling. And these truths are inconvenient. But now in your hometown, have you seen buildings?
I'm from San Diego, man. So we are the only the only city in the United States that still has a large majority of their World's Fair intact. You know, a lot of it's been, you know, seriously perverted, you know, and like destroyed. You know, and there's like a bunch of stupid like museums in it, you know, that are like just total bogus crap, you know, just to distract us from the magnificence of the buildings, you know what I mean? But yeah, I mean it's like we still have the organ pavilion at that site, you know, which is pretty cool. You can still go there, and I think like every Sunday or something they still play it for you.
That's pretty neat. I did a video on San Diego.
Yeah,
Balboa Park and the stuff that they left, and they're trying to pass it off as temporary crap. It's crazy.
I know it's all crazy, man. But yeah, glad that I was able to catch you guys. I mean, watch you all the time.
Can I call you NWO? Are we on a friend basis at this point?
You can call me whatever you want, man.
Okay, NWO. I love all these people calling in from different towns. You know, with
the guy from Georgia was great. The guy that was just on, he was
Travis.
awesome.
Yes, no, and Jake, and we appreciate everyone. We appreciate you calling in. NWO, feel free anytime.
Thanks for having me, man.
Give us a follow. No, I think it's fascinating. The like you guys were all saying, like it's not a dark or a bad feeling. It's like it's
a different one. It's like you said earlier, the New World Order makes you fucking sick to your stomach and you want to puke and all the shit that they want to do and jam down us and set us back forever. It feels like but the old world, like I'm telling you, like I'm super jazzed on this. Like it's just the vibe and the feelings that you get from these, you know, things that are just being hidden from us and whatnot. Like it just gives you a different feeling. It's not oh shit, here we go again. It's, oh man, what a beautiful piece. Like what happened?
It was way better than we thought it was.
Yes.
That's what I think, you know. It's like we're scraping off the Matrix goo, like Neo coming out of the battery, and we're just trying to get that shit off of us. It's like I just want to be able to see clearly. You know?
Yes.
Well, and I mean that's why I wanted to play at the beginning, right before our intro, that clip about what they're finding in Egyptian tombs from 3,000-4,000 years ago. How are they getting American tobacco and Colombian white stuff shipped over there, and so much so that they could bury it, which kudos to those priests for having the resolve to bury that and not
sample the wares.
Yeah. But that's the the Giants thing. I mean, that all of it is so. You could just go down so many freaking tunnels on this thing. It's it truly is spectacular.
And it cuts to the core of us, doesn't it? Just with some of
Yeah.
the chats we've had here tonight, it goes deep for sure. Yeah.
Well, and we're right on that 2-hour mark, so I think we should probably wrap it up. Now you've written a couple books, is that correct?
Yeah, I wouldn't say written a book. It's a coffee table book. It's a compilation of demolished buildings in North America. I did 101 and then another 101. And it's just a way for me to archive these things, put them in the same spot. And I had people over the years ask me how they can donate money to me or whatever. So I decided to make these books. And if people want to contribute, they can buy my books. Is how I've got that done.
Any diving into Tennessee? I know I like I said, where I'm fresh on this, I need to go all the way through your page, but
You're in Tennessee?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I did Nashville.
Okay,
right?
great. Yeah.
But I have a lady that I'm pretty close with that she lives in Tennessee. She'd probably have a lot more hot spots than I would off the top of my head.
Nice.
But
Okay.
yeah, it's pretty much everywhere. I'm looking at Knoxville, is Chattanooga in Tennessee?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, I'm sure you'll find anything. Throw a rock, throw a stick, you'll find something.
Anything
Great.
along the Mississippi River, I'm sure you're going to find.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of melted architecture too. Around, look at riverbanks and cuts around roads and stuff like that, and look. For
I
things
guess
that
that's
look
the
like
other. We gotta have a part 2 and go into that. The melted architecture. 'Cause-
You guys got to dive into it first, though, right?
Okay.
Check it out.
No, we'll do our research. Maybe we'll have you back on in 6 months and we'll pound out some more random facts.
Anytime.
It's
Love
going
to.
to take me a minute, man. This is like this guy.
See you
how
around
long-
Thanksgiving.
How many years? 2020?
3 years.
Yeah.
21, yeah.
Okay, 21. Okay, yeah. So
My first year, my jaw was on the floor and I couldn't function. The first year of my research, so it
I
took me
bet.
a year to put it together and figure out.
just to organize that type and to open your mind up to that.
Yeah,
takes time.
and then to be able to present it, right? That's a hard thing too. To be able to
Yes.
present. Yeah.
That's why we cheat here at Fan and Facts, and we just have someone else come on and explain it for us. No, we appreciate you coming on, Chris. We thank you so much. You're more than welcome. Come on anytime you want. Follow Chris, Old World Exploration. You're on Rumble, you said, YouTube. You got a couple books. I saw the links in your YouTube video, so go click on that. Get yourself a nice conversation starter piece. And anything else you want to mention before we let you go?
Yeah, I've been told the books are good for waking up the normies. You stick it on your coffee table and they might pick it up and start flipping through and start asking questions. But no, I just encourage everyone to dig into what we're calling the old world. There's lots of resources out there, but it's right outside your door. It might even be in the house you're living in. So look a little closer at what's going on around you and don't trust what they're telling us and what they've been telling us for 100+ years. It's bullshit.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching. We got up to 203 followers or watchers on the show. We know that's a lot to do with you, Chris, so we appreciate that. And as usual, we will finish the show off with the Kiffness, but before a special indie song out from last week's request to all of our Alex Jones fans.
Store, the paradigm of absolute control. And that's why we're just out here doing simple things, pointing out that we're meant to be in nature and be natural. And this is where we find the source that God made to transcend the New World Order. And that's why they want to try to keep us out of it.
I'm angry. I've had enough of these people. They're a bunch of Christian murderers, scum. They're on giant death factories, keeping babies alive and selling their body parts. What more do you need to know about these people? I go out and face these scum. They literally crawl out from under rocks. They have green looking skin and they run around screaming, we love Satan, we wanna eat babies. I have them on video. Hillary's in the creepy weird sick stuff, man. She sleeps in the same room with that creepy weird woman whose mother wears a hood over her head. What the hell? That woman number one is ugly. Imagine how bad she smells, man. I'm told her and Obama just stink. Obama and Hillary both smell like sulfur. Little vampire pot belly goblins are hobbling round coming after us. My spirit gets close to that evil and I feel it go. We're such self-centered crap, we don't even notice hell itself rising up against us. Millions of pointed people of the very worst type, and I'm so pissed. We're gonna stab your daughter at the mall. We're gonna stab your wife, your son. We're gonna stab you with a butcher knife, and then the police chief is gonna say, we love our Somalis, we love our Muslims. Oh, they're so good, oh, they're so sweet.
If exposed,